Welcome all to the normally scheduled Public Safety Committee meeting of Tuesday, February 21st at 5:30 p.m. And we are trying to just get started on time. We will have actually several presentations, everything from drone and license plate camera technology to a PowerPoint presentation from our health director. So that is the sense of urgency to get started. We will have our chief reports be executive summaries so that we can get to the presentation part of the meeting. So having said that, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
Motion to approve the minutes from the last public safety meeting.
All right, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, they pass. This is the portion of the meeting open to public comment. If we have anybody from the public that would like to approach the podium. Anybody for public comment? Seeing none, hearing none, we're going to move on to departmental updates, starting with the fire department. Chief Gary.
Okay, thank you. And in keeping with tonight's theme, I'll make this very brief. The report, I'll just go over the cover page of the report for January 2023. Incidents responded to were 50, and training hours were 546. I just want to point out, as of today's calls, that incidents responded to have jumped up to 111. It's been a busy month. The staffing remains the same, but as you look at the leave of absences, at the beginning of the month, one member came off the medical leave of absence and one member came off the personal leave of absence. So as you look down for the total, we're up to 58. And the last thing to report on is LAH, which we've billed out as of today, $65,000.
Wow. Any questions from Councilor O'Sullivan?
None for me, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Councilor Prakash?
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Chief. Ambulance report. Chief Goodrich?
The total calls that we had for the month were 377 calls for the month of January. 8 of those were canceled. We had 6 no contacts, and 2 of those were canceled prior to our arrival. We had 6 lift assists. We had no opioid-related transports, and there were no cardiac arrests for the month of January. Rocky Hill Ambulance had a total of 60 hours of training for the month. We had 2 different meetings. The first one was on patient assessment, and then the second one was the mandatory human sex trafficking that we have to have every 2 years. The statistics show here we have 39 active members. We have 9 non-riding members. We have 10 members in training. We have 2 out on medical leave, and we have 4 that are still in college, with a total of 64 still.
Thank you.
I want to apologize for not getting the report out earlier. On Thursday, I was made aware that that I didn't have access to the information that I needed from Aetna. They were told that they had a meeting with the town on February 2nd and that we weren't allowed to get the stuff anymore, and that it had to go directly to the town manager and there was another person that he said it had to go to. So I couldn't get the statistics until I had to call Aetna and tell them that it has to go through me because they're contracted through me, and that we didn't know anything about a meeting, and we were quite upset that we weren't involved in it. And I did explain to them that we did, we had a good relationship with them, and I think we still do. But the secret meetings that are going around with them, we've told them that that we will consider thinking about looking at other paramedic services to give us our care if they can't be willing to work together. We have to be a joint function to make sure that it's
So
working.
is this the first month that you are reporting Aetna's numbers?
No, I've always given you the Aetna report. I get it every month, but I went to get this month's, and for last month's, for this report for the meeting, and I couldn't get it because they told me that I wasn't allowed to have it. So when I called them and explained to them, it showed up on Friday afternoon. I finally got the report. So I just wanted to apologize for the delay, and that's why I handed it out to everybody here
I
today.
appreciate it.
So-
Questions from Councilor O'Sullivan?
Brian, can you tell us a little bit about the training you underwent in connection with trafficking? Who provided it and
The state of Connecticut provides it. It's required for all medical services to have it every 2 years. Am I right, Nancy? Every 2 years it has to be, it's a mandatory training that has to go through the state. It's a state requirement to have your license as an EMT renewed. And she came to the building, they taught the class, and we go on from there.
So does that give you a protocol of questions to ask or things to look for when you're making calls?
Oh, yeah, it's just like
routinely?
just like the abuse for, we're mandatory reporters, so it's, if we suspect anything, we have to document it, call them, and if it's, especially if they tell us that it's some kind of trafficking issue, but especially when it's any kind of abuse or anything, we have to report it also. We do a separate report to the state every, once we come across it.
So mandatory reporting goes beyond abuse of minors. It could be
Correct.
adults as well.
Yes, yes. And a lot of times when we go to a call, the police will be there with us, and obviously, they're filing the same thing that we do. We all have the same people that we have to answer to for the state for any kind of suspected abuse of any type of like that.
And that generates a special type of report? Or like what,
From the
where do you
state,
go with that?
yes.
Yeah.
136,
Huh?
the DCF 136.
Yeah, DCF 136. As far as I know, we haven't had anything lately, but if there was a report, I would add it to the statistics thing for you, just so you know what I mean? But it's usually through our association and the state of Connecticut goes, that's where the investigation goes through. DCF or whatever they're calling themselves these days, they'll be the ones that do the investigation.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Councilor Prakash?
Yeah, I know the town manager, I think, wanted to jump in, so I'm going to give you the opportunity. Ray, I think you were going to say something. I don't know. I thought you were going to say something.
I contacted Ed and told them to continue giving you the information as usual.
Again, I don't know where it came from or how, just the person that generates the reports for me, that's what I was told.
So, Chief, like, what are the detailed reports? Because we do get, like, the overall numbers. Do you get, like, the detailed report from them every month, like, how detailed it is? Because we do get, like, one. We do get one page.
That's the report I get from them, and that's the only one that they'll get. I asked them for a more detailed one, like we do for specific calls and stuff like that, and they told us that that they couldn't break it down like that. They're too busy. There was just no way for them.
Yeah, because I remember, like, I have asked you before, so
Yep.
I was
Right.
wondering about
And
that.
we've tried multiple times to get that type of a report from them.
Okay.
So,
All right. No, thank you.
Yep.
I just wanted to clarify.
Thank you. All right, I appreciate that, accept your apologies. Chief Custer?
Okay, monthly report for January 2023. There were 3,097 calls to our dispatch center for the month. We had 25 criminal arrests for the month. We investigated 32 motor vehicle accidents. We had 4 DUI arrests, issued 86 infractions for the month. An additional 173 warnings were issued, and we conducted 398 training hours for the month. In terms of staffing, we have one dispatcher who was recently hired. She's begun her field training with us, and that leaves us with one vacancy in the dispatch center. We have a candidate identified. We're in the process of conducting a background investigation. She's about 2/3 complete. I anticipate having her on board by April 1st, the latest. In addition to that, there are 2 officers on light duty. All other departments are at full staffing. No report this month from the Regional Auto Theft Task Force. You'll be receiving an update on the LPR camera system shortly. The only other thing I had for the month was that on January 11th, members of the Rocky Hill Police Department working with DEMIS, which is the Connecticut Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, particularly their tobacco prevention and enforcement officers, conducted unannounced compliant inspections of establishments in town that sell tobacco products and/or electronic cigarettes. These inspections were performed in an effort to determine compliance with state laws concerning the prohibition of the sales of e-cigarettes and/or tobacco products to use under the age of 21. It should be noted that retailers are required by state law to inspect the photo identification of anyone who appears under the age of 30 before selling tobacco products or electronic cigarettes to those individuals. So on that date, we conducted a total of 16 unannounced compliance inspections in town of establishments that sell those products. 13 were found in compliance, 3 were found non-compliant. Those 3 establishments were issued a first-time infraction ticket in the amount of $300. And a report follows. We follow up by sending a report to the Connecticut Department of Revenue Services, who actually licensed these tobacco retailers. And other than that, that's all I have for this month.
Counselor O'Sullivan.
Thank you. Chief, within training, there's a couple of subcategories there that I think just seem particularly relevant these days. And one is on de-escalation techniques, and another, which I think has a lot of overlap, is handling situations that seem to involve people involving a mental health crisis of some kind. Can you talk a little bit about that, about how what type of training, how frequently, that sort of thing, how much of a part that plays in overall training within the department?
Absolutely. So both de-escalation training and dealing with individuals with mental illness are required training areas for all officers in the state of Connecticut in order to maintain their police certification. So it has now been incorporated in their annual, I'm sorry, it's not annual, it's every 3 years, I should say, research training. They'll get training in de-escalation, dealing with people in crisis. And in addition to that, we offer in-house programming as well. I don't particularly feel that once every 3 years is enough for these topics, because these are situations that we deal with every day. In addition to that, there is a highly specialized 40-hour course in dealing with these types of people and employing de-escalation tactics. So we make that 40-hour training available to all our officers. It's above and beyond the required training. It's difficult getting seats, so there is a waiting list. But all those officers that are interested, we will work them in at some point to get that additional training.
Okay. So, I mean, I think those areas are particularly important and of particular interest these days. And I'd just be interested in going forward, as you give your reports on number of training hours given within a particular month, how many are allocated to those areas.
Topics.
And I think, maybe just through the process of focusing on a little bit more on what those numbers are, that maybe they'll, prompt more of a conversation as to what's really, appropriate, what should be required going forward.
Will do.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Prakash.
One quick question. I'm really looking forward to the LPR presentation, Chief. These audits, for the tobacco and vape products and things like that, are there other audits of similar nature, which you do like on a regular basis? Because definitely the vape one is probably a requirement now, like with the kids. Like I think kids of that age use more vape than probably cigarettes.
We do the cigarette enforcement and liquor enforcement. So this particular operation was the result of some concerned citizens about a particular establishment possibly selling these items to use under 21. Ironically, it turned out that was not one of the 3 that was not compliant. But we hit them all. as a response to that concern. And we will do so occasionally with the liquor stores as well for the same thing. So those are the two areas we focus on, and we work in conjunction with the state.
Thank you.
Chief, I second Counselor O'Sullivan's request. I think that's a great thing for us to be mindful of going forward in your report, so thank you, Counselor O'Sullivan. With regards to the inspection on the tobacco side and the tobacco and alcohol side, there was reports of like mobile units coming across the border from New York into Connecticut, mobile pot, I guess, cannabis type operations that are not licensed or are we seeing any of that? Is there any news on that? Probably not up here.
No.
No.
Are you talking almost like a pop-up operation?
Yeah, like a pop-up
Yeah.
selling.
No, we haven't seen that.
Okay. All right.
Happily.
All right. Thank you. Emergency management.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of quick updates. Working with the EPA Region 1 to develop those geographic responses to hazmat along the Connecticut River. All towns have been asked to participate. We had our first meeting, and we will be having a workshop meeting come, I believe, May. Met with the school resource officers, and we're hopefully going to be doing some interaction with school security and some of their drilling. The new template is out for the local emergency operations plan with added ESF functions for mental health, domestic violence, and cyber. And our quarterly workshop was canceled due to the move of the EOC, but we will be having one in May as well. Town hall numbering and lettering project is ongoing. We have the final proofs. I'll be going over that with the building facilities, and we'll send that out when that's ready to go. And we had one emergency activation at the concierge water interruption on February 4th and 5th. There were 2 weather-related notifications that went out last month for strong storms, high winds, and cold weather activations. And we did activate the warming stations in both the library and the community center for those days required.
Now, are those just during business hours?
Yeah.
Okay, because we had an emergency up on Cold Spring where they had lost power due to the wind, and they had no generators, they had nothing to be able to, we had to transport the patient that was on oxygen just to go up there, and literally we called down to the PD to see if the centers were open. The dispatcher said that they didn't even know who you were or had to have any contact information for you. So we were kind of stuck in the middle of that, so this guy went and sat in the hospital for 5-6 hours because we didn't have anywhere to literally bring him or anything. And when it went out, it didn't say that it was just during business hours. It was, so we assumed that they were open after hours.
Yeah, on the notice, it clearly, in bold print, we put just during business hours unless there was going to be a
Oh, I
large-
noticed it after. I mean,
Yeah.
when I read it, like, when I first got it, I assumed, which is probably wrong, but, when I went back to look
We'll
at
preface
it.
that at the beginning in the
Yeah.
future, so.
Okay. No, it's just something that, I don't know if we need to just make sure that they had your name and phone number or something to get a hold of you if we need you for after-hour stuff,
Yeah, they do, and I'll follow up with it. I wrote it down to check with PD. I'll get with the chief on it as well.
Because I remember in past, we used to have like 3 or 4 different oxygen machines down at the ambulance building because it was generated, and it was if they needed to come down there, we would bring them down to our office where they would sit, and then we would be able to at least they can have the oxygen plugged in to until the storm or whatever passed by, until their facility got power back.
I'll get offline with you. We'll see if we can go back
I
to
was
that.
just,
so.
I just know what we did in the past,
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
Counselor O'Sullivan.
Yeah, it's just with respect to the school security, so is that focused entirely on procedures and personnel, or do you also conduct audits of, say, the physical infrastructure or the hardware, that sort of thing? Or what are, what's currently available for, whether it's locks or buzzing in or those sorts of things?
Yeah, there's a school audit that's done. That audit needs to be submitted to the state. That's generally done by the insurance carrier. Kerma does offer that service, or you can use an outside service. And what they do is they come in and they'll go through all that, the entryways, the access, security, things of that nature. They put together a full report, and then that goes back to the building facilities and superintendent for review, and then decisions are made at that point. My interaction was just with the SROs, kind of a meet and greet with the SROs and the sergeant in charge. We talked a little bit about ongoing drills, and they've offered to invite me down when those are going to happen to to help and offer any assistance that emergency management can offer for them.
And on the drills, and this is such a depressing thought, such a depressing topic, but I'm hearing that there's kind of a rethinking of the classic, the approach, run, hide, fight, and now there's, as they study and analyze more of these incidents, there's kind of some second guessing as to whether that's really the right approach. So can you give us a sense of where the town of Rocky Hill is as that kind of evolving, and what the focus of the current training is?
Yeah, right now we're under the ALICE training guideline, and we're going to continue that unless it's deemed that it's a change in the process. So we do have the town ALICE program where we provide that for the municipal employees, and then the school district has their own trainers, which are the SROs, and they do that for new teachers coming in as well as refreshers currently. But changing the plan, there is the conflicting plan. There's also the NFPA 3000, which is a program for school shootings, and there's really no specific way that you should do it. They offer many different programs out there. Again, we've chosen the ALICE program. That's what we've currently got in place. So unless there's a decision to move away from that, based on, like you said, more feedback, we'll take that under the review of the safety committee and bring that to the committee for review on it.
So who has the final say on which approach would be used for training in Rock Hill? Is that a mandate on the state level, or is it left up to local
Oh, no, it's left
towns
up
to
to
figure
local.
out?
You can use whatever program you'd like to use. And again, like I said, just because of what's in place right now with Rocky Hill, it is the ALICE program. So they've continued to do that program. SROs are teaching the same program that the municipal employees are getting. So we can look further into it with the state and see if there's a potential to change it, and then I can bring it back to the committee if we need to.
Well, I guess I just want to know, where's that guidance coming from with respect to best practices? I mean, we have these studies that are drawing on data from around the country, and I don't know what organizations are compiling them and coming up with these new, I don't know if they're guidelines yet, but just kind of rethinking. The ALICE is more
is
the
the
old
most prevalent.
old paradigm, but
Right.
but what I'm hearing is just much more recent, that, hey, maybe we need to rethink that whole approach.
Yeah. Nothing that I've seen yet has said that there's anything that's better than one or the other. ALICE is the predominant one that's out there. Most of the countries under the ALICE guideline, that has a large. I know that's a large percentage, but the run, hide, fight, and the different programs that are out there. Like I said, it's all dependent on what the town wants to use.
Okay.
So-
I guess I just want to be sure that when you're saying it's up to what the town wants to use, but,
making
where
it?
are we getting that guidance on what are viewed as best practices? Now, rather than saying, hey, town, figure it out yourself, there's data out there that's being gathered, and new ideas are being kicked around, so.
I can bring it up under the next, I'll bring it up as a topic under our next regional meeting for discussion and see where it opens up, and I'll also get some feedback, and at the next meeting, I'll report on that.
That'd be great, thank you.
Sure.
Councilor Prakash.
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Director Pendle, yes. Please give us the short outline of the ALICE steps
Okay.
for our packet for the next meeting, and give us the alternative plan, what those steps are that we've all heard about in the press, so that we at least can start with some education on that. and then we'll see where it goes from there as you'll talk to regional. So absolutely include that in our next,
Sure.
for our next meeting.
Mr. Chairman, just to add to that, I'm sure Kerma would be consulted on that topic also, our insurance carrier, in addition to our police department and other professions.
Yeah,
In
I
the
I
area.
would imagine you'd tie all that in, and you'd have to get from Board of Ed as well as what they're doing and why they're using what they're using.
Right.
But we should know the steps and what an alternative plan might be, and we'll start there.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
so-
we'll have a report on next month.
Chief Custer.
And just for the record, we had a high amount of input on what process we were going to use in town. We looked at a number of them. Alice was clearly the choice of my people. So we presented it to the town and to the board. And the superintendent's going to have the last say on the school side. And of course, town manager on the town side. But both liked what we were offering and liked the programming. And I might add, we won an award for risk management excellence by Kerma for the program that we have in place. So, they're on board with it too.
That's
By
awesome.
no way are we suggesting to change it. We're just, I think we
Right.
need
No,
to be,
I
we need to
agree.
re-familiarize ourselves with the steps that are being recommended and what that new step process might be, just so that we're informed.
So yeah, I think what we can do is we can do a presentation just like we did. It doesn't have to be like, you don't have to go into like every detail of it, but I think maybe we just have something like we are having today for the LPR, like, so
Overview.
that's comprehensive.
Okay.
Everybody gets on the same page.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Great. All right, thank you for that report. And we are looking at old business. Any old business? I'm turning to town staff. Anything? No? Okay. New business. So we're very excited to have presentations today, and it's audio-visual day. So I think we'll start with the Central Connecticut Health District, who has a PowerPoint for us. And Charlie, be mindful that we have a 30-minute drone program, and we also have a police license plate readers program following right after you. So quick. The floor is yours.
Charlie muted? Charlie might be muted.
Charlie, you're muted.
No, he's not. It might be.
It does say he's talking.
He's on.
So maybe we can go to the fire and come back to Health District? Does that sound reasonable? You saying wait or go? Okay, we'll go. We're moving over to the fire presentation on the drone program. We're looking forward to it, Chief Gary.
That'll be
Screen?
Sergeant Carter, Officer Karras, and Deputy Chief Gentili tonight.
Do they have PowerPoint?
I believe they do.
Yeah, so drop the screen.
Yeah.
Chief, you're not going to bring one in here and kind of buzz us?
You never know. You never know.
Can't tell all the secrets.
I think that was your green light there, Mark.
I'm not flying at all.
guys mind if I approach you with one of our newest drones?
Please.
Our newest ones.
Wow, it's small.
Nice and small. Get wide, it's small on the side.
Looks pretty sturdy. Where's the camera? Oh, there's the camera technology. All right.
Getting compact.
Oh, wait. Yeah. Big mounted on the.
Way too much technology for me.
All right.
Okay, looks like you're up.
Figure out how we're gonna.
Advance the
Yeah,
slides.
there's advance the slides. Perfect, thank you. That's already on. Awesome. All right, I'm Brandon Cares. I'm with the police department. Chief Gentili's here from the fire department, and Sergeant Carta is also here from the police department. They supervise the drone unit. I'm a patrol officer with the police department, so I'm kind of the one hands-on with it, and they do a great job supervising it. So we're just going to give you a brief overview of what the unit, which came to fruition just a short while ago, does. Unit was established in 2021. All of our pilots are certified through the FAA. We recertify every 2 years. Some of our pilots have been doing it for a little bit, and when the program came up, we were able to utilize them. That's part of having some transfers that came over. I'm sure you guys are aware of all the great hires that the chief has made. Some of us came with that experience, and we've been able to use it, throughout the start of this program. Currently, the police department has 4 members. The fire department has 4 members. There are fire personnel in training. The training is really hard. It's a lot of online work. There's a test at the end. The test is known to be pretty difficult, a lot of failure rate. We haven't had that really. We haven't seen a lot of that here, but that's, again, not my specialty. But we are doing pretty well with the program so far. Currently, we have one Matrice. It's a large drone with infrared capabilities. What that means is it seeks heat. So we're able to use that in a lot of situations where we're tracking heat signatures, helps the fire department with fire calls. I don't let the chief get into that. But it has the ability to seek heat. We have a Mavic 2, which is a much smaller drone that also has IR capability. It's not as good as the Matrice, but it's definitely been helpful for us on certain calls, which you'll see shortly with some pictures. We have a Mavic Tool Dual, which just has basic camera capability. This is really helpful with training. It helps us get used to the controls, flying into tight spaces. It's just a good drone to have on as another backup to what we have now. That one that we just passed around is actually a new DJI drone. The chief probably will get into it a little bit, but because of our program, how successful it's been, DJI offered that to us as a demo, and there's talks about us being able to actually receive the drone without paying for it. But again, I'll let the chief get into that. That's just because of our program being so successful so far. The drone's being stored currently at Fire Station 3 in our command post, but shortly it's going to be going into the chief's vehicle, and we'll have a fly car essentially for the drone in the event that we need it quickly.
So the current Matrice, what it can do is it basically has a high duration battery system on it. It means it can fly for over 50 minutes or up to 50 minutes, which gives us a long duration flight time. That's really important when you talk about situational awareness, whether it be a police matter or a fire matter. To have that aerial surveillance above a structure fire or a police incident long term is really important. It adds to the safety and support of the incident, so that currently the way most fire departments do this, they have somebody constantly walking around. Well, when you're walking around an incident, you can miss something at that incident. The drone gives us aerial overwatch so that we can actually watch a 360 view constantly on the entire situation. Same thing with police investigations. We can get an overview that the police department can't get when they're doing an accident investigation or a criminal investigation. Searching in the woods for lost persons, we're basically getting a bird's eye view versus trying to walk through and find an area where the people are. The camera system on this is probably the most expensive part of our drone program. The drone costs approximately $12,000. The camera costs about $14,000 on this drone because it is so capable. It's got a zoom camera up to a 2200 times zoom, which means we can sit at the boat launch and actually view boat launch or boat numbers all the way down at South Glastonbury Marina and actually read those numbers. The active track capability on it allows us, if we're in a situation and we see something, we can actually track that person, and that camera will just lock onto that target as they're moving around, for instance, Ferry Park or Fall Fest. If we have a lost child, we can actually lock onto that child, follow that child, and direct units right into that actual person. And the infrared capabilities, as Chief Karas already talked about, is it allows us to not only search for people in the woods, but hot spots in a structure fire and actually direct fire suppression activities, which we'll show here in a few minutes. How are you going to play this?
I'll have to see.
This is just an example of an infrared search at night of a missing child. This was not done in Rocky Hill, I will be honest with you. This is a image out of Massachusetts. But as you can see, if we can get back to the video, there's a white dot in just about the top middle corner of your page, and you have a searcher that's coming down the path. If the image could play, you would see that searcher walk right down the path, right to about adjacent with that white dot, walk right in and pick up the child. That's something we can't do with current technology, just walking in and basically doing a line search. You have multiple personnel trying to accomplish the same target that this one drone can accomplish within a few minutes. If you want to go to the next slide.
Yeah, imagine the police department having the 4 people working on an evening shift and having to comb that whole area with only 4 people and a sergeant sitting at the roadway.
And
With this,
I'm sorry, and possibly waiting 20 to 30 minutes for a K-9 to come in to do a track.
and meanwhile, you have a kid or whoever that person is, someone with dementia, hiding in the woods that we could have known, we would know immediately that they're right there. We can direct resources accordingly, and get to that child or that dementia patient or whoever it is in those woods that we were looking for. That's an incident that happened right down the street in Massachusetts, so.
So can I raise a question? Sure. So we saw the searcher there, and we saw the light showing where the child was. So how's this information being relayed to the searcher? Is there radio contact being maintained from the person who's actually monitoring the drone? Is that how
There
that
is
works?
constant radio communication between the drone unit and any incident command, whether it be police or fire. And in the hopefully near future, we're actually going to have instantaneous communication where the incident commander or even the searchers will be able to pull out their cell phone and they will be able to see the exact image that's on the drone itself.
Thank you.
Part of our training too is to have a pilot and a visual observer. So, and that's a FAA standard. So if Chief was flying the drone and I was a visual observer, we'd be able to direct, the visual observer would be able to direct those resources that he's seeing. Hey, they're 500 feet north. Okay, officer so-and-so, let's go to this location. So we can relay that information pretty fast.
So the image you're looking at currently is the inception of our program. This was the tractor-trailer fire that occurred on I-91 northbound February 17th of 2019. At the time, we did not have a drone. As this fire progressed, it was very obvious that we couldn't get close enough to the vehicle to actually ascertain exactly how far the fire was spreading, whether we had fuel leaks or anything else. The thought was is if we had a drone, we could have done that, a good recon of the situation, and we actually attempted to get a private drone in the area, but by the time we got it there, it was too late. The fire had pretty much died down, and there was no reason for a drone. You could walk up to the truck. But this was the inception of our program. Since that time, we actually did purchased the small drone, that first Mavic 2 that we talked about, the training drone. We were able to use that at a fire at Fieldstone to actually fly into the structure because the building was deemed unsafe and take pictures for the fire marshal's office, which aided them in the investigation of the fire. That's what really started our drone program back in 2021. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I think the chief thought we were just buying toys that we were going to have fun with until we got to Glastonbury Avenue. But we'll continue and we'll go from there.
All right, so I'm a part of our Mid-State Accident and Reconstruction Squad. It's a joint squad with the town of Rocky Hill, Berlin, Weathersfield, Cromwell, and Newington. Essentially, we respond to all the serious physical injury and death, unfortunately, crashes. We had an incident here in town on Dividend Road last year where a woman was seriously injured in a crash. With this drone, what you're seeing in these drone photos is an overhead of the scene that day, as it laid from an overhead perspective. So anyone can walk up onto that street and see the crash, but you can really see, if you look close, you'll see a bicycle. You'll see the bicycle on the ground right behind the truck. When we overlay this information, when we have this capability soon, the program's gonna allow us to do that, but we'll be able to take measurements. We can with the science, you're able to determine speeds, and having that overhead view allows you to make those calculations with very minimal, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, like without having to take a tape measure, you can go outside and get this information and actually take measurements from the pictures. And it's just the new science that's out, and it's been tried and tested in court. Some of the other capabilities of having the overhead, this is a crash that happened in Berlin. It was a one car into a tree. If you look at that picture on the left, you'll see that it's a car on its side. There's nothing really showing to you. Small road. When you look at the picture on the right, what you'll see in the middle of the picture, you'll see a red, kind of like a shaded line over in the shoulder. That's braking. So had we not had the drone, we wouldn't have known, because the damage was not very clear up the road. It was very clear where the crash was, but we didn't know that car struck the guardrail until Chief Gentile, who was flying the drone, saw the heat signature in that shoulder, which told us that the crash actually happened first into the guardrail. There was braking, and then that car ended up going across the roadway into a tree. So that case was completely, we get there, we think it's a car into a tree, but really it's a car into a guardrail that resulted in some braking and into a tree. So just shows the capabilities of the infrared on the camera, and we've seen a lot of this on our mid-state calls. This is an actual video, if it works, unlike the other one. Yeah, this one will work. So it shows you from the perspective, the drone's gonna fly where it hits the guardrail, and essentially it flies over into where the crash happens. A totally different picture than what you just saw in the overhead. This is from the eye level of the drone's probably a couple feet in the air at this level, maybe 10 feet, and versus an overhead picture, which gives you almost like I guess it's a 3D picture, but it almost looks 2D from looking at it down. But again, some of the capabilities of the drone and how clear that image is for court or for whatever we're using it for.
So when you get back to structure fires, this is 11 Glastonbury Avenue, which happened in December 2021. This was the drone that changed the chief's mind. This was the fire that changed the chief's mind. Between the joint program between the police and fire department, the police department was able to get our drone out to us. At the structure fire, I need the firefighters fighting fires, and this is when the police department and the fire department worked very well together. They were able to get the drone on site and get it up in the air and started flying for us. And basically what we were looking at is two images of the structure fire, both thermal imaging. But what I want to point out is the picture on the left, we weren't necessarily looking at the actual structure fire in this case, we were looking at the building to the right. And as you can see, there's a small heat source building up on the back left of that building. And it's kind of hard to see, but it's along the left-hand side of the wall, and you just see that glow starting up on that roof line. When the drone operator basically looked at the chief and said, hey, listen, don't just worry about that structure fire. You're now seeing heat on adjacent buildings. We were able to keep that building from actually catching on fire because the heat was so strong coming off the fire building, it was actually going to the adjacent structure. No one would have ever seen that until that building actually lit on fire, and we were able to put hose lines on that structure prior to that actually occurring to save that building, save further damage to that building. In addition, in the next video, this is also Glastonbury Avenue. This is actual video we took where the drone was actually directing hose streams right into the roof of the building. Even in those aerial towers, when the drone or when the operators are working those nozzles, it's hard to tell where their water is actually going. The drone allows us to actually direct the stream directly into the fire, hopefully allowing us to put the fire out in a more quick eventuality. Bayberry Lane was a structure fire just this past winter. It actually started in a chicken coop. It wasn't actually, the building didn't catch on fire, but there was some heat transfer. This was actually taken with our small Matrice thermal imaging camera on the left. But the one thing I wanted to point out with this was most of the light produced in the backyard of this, on the picture on the right, is from a spotlight on this small drone. Now, this drone's only about 1.5 feet wide, and it's got a small spotlight providing a majority of that light. It's interesting because our big Matrice aircraft does not have a spotlight. We can get one for it, but unfortunately that takes money and we need the funding to do that sort of thing. And that's what we're trying to drum up support for tonight, is the support of this program. Had the Matrice had this type of capability, even the nighttime calls where we go out for mid-state or structure fires, we'd be able to illuminate the scene much better and get much better photography from those incidents for better investigation purposes and better situational awareness.
So Chief, when you arrived on the scene, that drone kind of went from the road in first?
So
Bing?
I was, Chief Gary, he was there first. I think I was there second or third. The small drone gets up in the air in about 5 minutes, so we had the drone up in the air very quickly, and we could do situational awareness immediately with the fire. This was the second time this drone was used in that capability. We had another structure fire on Copper Beach Drive. It was a chimney fire. The chief was there within a few minutes. I was right behind him. I had the drone in the air. I was actually giving him situational reports on how bad the fire was in the chimney before the first apparatus even arrived on scene.
But this is the incident where the young man reported it.
The Bayberry is the one where the young man reported it, yes. I'll let you take community engagement.
I mean, so as far as, community engagement, we obviously will use our drone. We bring it out to National Night Out, all the other events that we have throughout town. And then for the parades, we'll put it up in the air, fly it around, get, nice photos and all that of the parades. So it's also, another tool to be like, hey, we have this, we can use it for emergency activities and also, community activities.
The picture on the right is of the Dakota's restaurant that was just recently torn down. And there was some strong concern, which you're seeing there is the building intact and a construction fencing around it. And there was concern that police and fire apparatus and even EMS would not be allowed to access the back of the hotel and the pet hotel. And we were able to actually survey the entire area with the drone to make sure that we had good access for all apparatus, regardless of the incident, even after the fencing had been put up.
So this is a survey, well, I wouldn't more or less call it a survey. At the beginning of the school year, I'm also the SRO supervisor. We were approached by the Board of Ed that Griswold Middle School was having a severe issue with their traffic problem at the start of school and at the school dismissal time. So Officer Cares and I went out one morning and we put the drone up and we put a whole presentation together to somehow try to come up with a solution to the traffic problem. But by having those photos and those videos from the drone from, I believe it was from 7:15 to 7:50, we were up in the air just to get, a timeline of, okay, the traffic's minimal. In a matter of 2 minutes, it's all the way backed up, almost to Elm Street from Bailey and textbooks. So we were able to, put that presentation together for the Board of Ed so, all of us, can cohesively come up with some sort of solution to this problem that we're having at GMS, arrival and dismissal.
So I'm sure you're aware of NIMS. It's a standard set forth by FEMA. It's a comprehensive national approach, and this is again from their website, national approach to incident management that is applicable to all jurisdictional levels and across functional disciplines. It's intended to be applicable across the full spectrum of potential incidents, hazards, and impacts regardless of size, location, and complexity. It improves coordination and cooperation between public and private entities in a variety of incident management activities, and it's also to provide a common standard for overall incident management. We include this because we think it's important to recognize that the police department, the fire department, EMS all work together cohesively to make sure that we resolve incidents in the best possible way. By having a unified command, by having a commander from the police department, a commander from the fire department, working together to direct resources as we need them for whatever the call is, it just provides the town with the best possible outcome, with the most real, up-to-date information. And that's what we're trying to hit at here. We value the importance of being innovative, progressive through technology. We see that in your investment in the program. It's in a critical incident, having access to the latest drone aircrafts allows for the incident commander to make real-time decisions based on the most up-to-date intelligence, and as a result, the on-scene unified command system may effectively address needs and emergency responses for often dangerous and evolving situations. The town seeks the benefit of limiting unnecessary exposure and liability when allowing these resources to be available. So we're saying is that when the chief's on a fire call and the police officer's flying the drone so that he can help fight the fire, we know to look for this hot spot, and we can, hey, chief, we got a hot spot here. Great, the police commander can then tell the fire commander, which then relays that information to the fire department to put water on whatever that hot spot is. And the same thing kind of applies for the police department. Hey, we have a hot spot in the woods. Sergeant Carter, we have a hot spot in the woods. Brandon, direct resources to this location so that way we can get people there. Having that joint relationship allows for the best possible outcomes.
Probably the best part about the joint program is the cost savings to the town as well. Many towns utilize drone programs in both their police and fire department in their separate organizations. By a joint program, we're saving the town thousands of dollars by using the drone across the spectrum of town agencies versus one specific drone for fire, one specific drone for PD.
We thought it was just important to add some active incidents that we've had. Back in the summertime of 2022, we had Department of Homeland Security in town. There was a fugitive that was wanted in all 50 states across the United States. For all intents and purposes, a bad guy. And we had the drone out there. It was over West Street, kind of behind Starbucks in that area. We ran into some issues because our drone didn't penetrate through some of the thick canopy, but it was something that we utilized, and we're able to direct resources across. We were able to see our people going into the woods, and we knew exactly where they were, so we didn't have to guess in the event that something bad happened. We would know exactly where they were and how to direct resources to them.
And ideally on that one, the video you weren't able to see, ideally, if we had a LiDAR camera or something that could penetrate the thick brush, we would have seen, we knew that he was bunkered down. We knew he was hiding. We had a perimeter set up, but we just couldn't see where exactly he was hiding. But ideally, it would have operated like, us seeing our officers, us seeing the bad guy, take 10 steps north, 20 feet on your right side, there he is. So that was a tough one.
And the next one we add is an assault on a pregnant woman in the parking lot of Walmart with a suspect who fled. We're telling you about how great the program is. Sometimes we do run into issues. We had a geofence issue because we're close to Brainerd's airspace. Again, FAA regulations prevent certain things from happening. Because we were in Brainerd's airspace, we worked through a glitch that wouldn't allow us to fly. But we learned how to get past that, and now we won't have that problem moving forward. So that's just another incident that we had. We used the drone for some reports of gang activity on New Britain Ave. It was very minor talks of some incident happening, but we used it for overhead. No different than a police officer sitting on a car on the side of the road monitoring, some activity. So we were able to use it for that. There was a shooting on Parsonage Street and Orchard Street. We were able to use the drone to document the scene for that call. The drone wasn't in service yet, but we were thinking about incidents that we could have had it and would have been useful. There was an incident with a suicidal juvenile at Quarry Park. There was a medical emergency on Outer France Street where we had to essentially bring resources from the roadway hundreds of yards into Outer France in order to locate a person in cardiac arrest. We also have the police department and the fire department typically get called to an EMS to people being lost in, let's say, Dinosaur State Park. They need help getting their way out. Or any park in town, and having a drone available to immediately go up there, locate the person, kind of direct them and guide them out would be helpful. So these are just some things we brainstormed that we remembered that would have been helpful. The police department also had an operation this past, we put out a press release on it, but there was a black Lexus involved in criminal activity in our schools. There was multiple incidents of indecent exposure and engaging police in pursuit. Obviously, the state prevents vehicle pursuits in these circumstances, so we had to think outside the box. We were able to use 3 drones from our police department, we were able to use the assistance of Hartford Police Department, and we were able to fly the drones in coordination with each other throughout strategic points in town to hopefully locate this vehicle that was committing these crimes in our town. Unfortunately, it wasn't located that day, but again, it goes to show how our program has come such a long way in the past year and a half, 2 years. That we're able to get the assistance of Hartford Police, and we're able to get the assistance of Manchester Police, and other police departments are calling us, asking us for our help. So again, it's, I guess I'm getting off topic from the operation, but we were able to work cohesively with the fire department, public works, public schools, and the Hartford Police Department in an effort to locate this suspect. Some other stuff that we talked about, we've had some incidents in Weathersfield, Newington, Berlin, Cromwell, East Hartford, Bristol. A lot of times we need someone with a drone, and the Rock Hill Police Department has in the fire department, our unit has gathered a reputation of being successful, and people enjoy calling us, and we don't mind helping them. So, any thoughts or questions?
Councilor O'Sullivan.
Yeah, just intrigued by one of the last things you talked about, which was kind of the handing off from one jurisdiction to another, because the rather strict pursuit policy we have in Connecticut now, I know it's enormously frustrating for law enforcement. And I just wonder, it seems like we're still kind of the early stages here, but does this sort of coordinated effort from jurisdiction to jurisdiction create opportunities to kind of work around that issue, that you could chase a car with a drone from above without chasing them physically at ground level?
There's definitely some limits to our ability to fly in the sky. Our battery life is only 50 minutes. FAA regulations require us to keep the drone in sight at all times. So hypothetically, we could put it up over 1800 Salis up on the roof there and fly towards, fly all the way down the Berlin Turnpike into Weathersfield, so long as we can see it. But at some point, that drone's going to have to fly back and land. So yes, there are some capabilities to seeing it. It's not going to solve the issue of the limited pursuit policy.
But I was going back to what you talked about, other towns, drone forces being involved as well. Do you see a scenario, maybe it's not right now because we're still kind of early in the game here, where your drone could go to the end of its battery life or its useful distance, and then kind of hand it off to a drone being operated in the next town over? Is that a realistic scenario in the near future?
I think it's going to require a lot of coordination. I think we're not there yet. I'm sure it could happen at some point. But yeah, I mean, we would have to say, hey, Weathersfield, we have a car that's taking off in the town of Rocky Hill, and it's going northbound on the Berlin Turnpike, and then Weathersfield would have to be prepared to put. The Matrice takes it probably a good 7 to 8 minutes. If you have it, I mean, a lot of times we have to go get the drone. But if you have it, it takes about 7 to 8 minutes to get it, hooked up. So if we said, hey, Weathersfield, we have this car that's going northbound on the Berlin Turnpike, by the time it probably passes their police department, we're probably past that time to set up.
Yeah, the guy's turned into Newington already. Yeah, right.
But yeah, I mean, in theory, that'd be awesome if we had a regional ability to deploy these drones. It'd be helpful. I don't know if we're there yet, though.
Okay, thanks.
Councilor Prakash.
So I have a couple of questions on technology, right? So how often does this technology changing in the last 5 years or whatever? And I don't know what the product life cycle is there, like of iPhone, 18 months or whatever. That's how iPhones were working, but I don't know if this goes something close to that. The reason I'm asking that is obviously for budget purposes, right? Like how often we update this technology and how often do we need to do it. The second part of it is the training part, right? So as the technology changes or improves, modifies, you need to be, retrained. I mean, trained accordingly, I would say, right? Not fully retrained, but can you see like more people on the fire department as well as PD getting trained more and more on this technology? And how do you want to prepare for that? Like, do we want more people in the program? I know it's a long question, but those are like two big overall parts.
So
of
I'll
this.
take the
The
first
cost
part
of
of your
technology changing, and then
I'll take the first part of your question, which is the cost.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, these are basically flying computers. So just like any other computer, they do have a life cycle on them. However, you could use your computer for many, many years, and it's still going to be updated continuously by Microsoft. The drones are the same way. You can buy one today, and it's going to be useful for many, many years to come. The life expectancy on the current drones are 7 to 10 years. However, the battery life, those are the issues that we have. We're supposed to be replacing batteries every 3 years, and for instance, the Matrice batteries are $700 a piece, and it takes 2 batteries to fly. So if we're looking at the original battery sets that we got, we originally purchased 3 battery sets. We're now looking at probably within the next coming year of replacing at least 1 set every year for the time being, just to make sure that we have a complete set of batteries so that we can continuously fly. And that's the key. With 4 battery sets, as I'm landing the drone with the first dead set of batteries, I can put another battery set in, and by the time that drone comes back for the 4th time, the first set of batteries are recharged and ready to go. Because we do have mobile chargers as well for all the drones that we have. So yes, the drones are very costly in these cases, but you're going to get 7 to 10 years as long as you maintain them and keep the batteries up to state. And Sergeant Carter will answer your second question.
Yeah, as far as training goes, we train monthly. The team as a whole trains monthly, and we do it on days. As far as the police department, every member works on a Wednesday, which is why Wednesdays are all of our training days, so we don't incur overtime. So we pull everybody off their scheduled shifts because the shifts are, above minimum staffing. Therefore, there's no overtime incurred for our training days, and we go over any new things. We do drills. We train in pretty much whatever we can that day for a full 8 hours. So.
And do you see any need to extend that training to more individuals? Like, I don't know how many are trained right now.
So for the
from
police
a personnel perspective.
Okay. For the police department, there's 4 of us on the team. Myself, Officer Cares, Officer O'Shea, and Officer Millette. When we were starting out this drone program, it was put out to everybody in the police department. Whoever wants to take this course, the course was free of charge. So we had a good amount of officers sign up for it. Again, as Officer Cares was explaining earlier, it's not an easy course to take. The test certainly is not a run-of-the-mill test. So a few officers then decided it wasn't right for them, and they didn't want to continue. I can see down the road possibly putting it out there, because we have had new hires since then, putting it out there again to say, would anyone else be interested in taking this course? And then we would look into it at that point and go from there.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm actually surprised that the life cycle is much longer than I thought it would be for the equipment itself, except for the battery part, which is obviously.
In terms of training for the fire department, we currently have 4 pilots as well, but we actually have 3 that are currently in class and 3 that have just started class. So hopefully we'll be having more pilots sign on, but it's a lot more convenient for us to do it because we don't have to worry about the overtime and the scheduling as much as an on-time. As a matter of fact, I believe Steve Pendle just started the class for us so that he can actually respond with us during the day and hopefully in the evenings to fly the drone as well if need be. So
Yeah, that's why I was asking, like, how much we, from extending this program out to more, personnel. That's why I was going with this, because this will become more part of your regular jobs. I don't know how else to characterize it, but maybe it just becomes part of your normal training.
And along with that, and I do need to say the team's done a great job, they were able to secure a Ford Explorer at no cost to the town, which is now the safety and support vehicle, which also has several other items in it, the fire department accountability software. But now they're able to get that out to a scene. And again, no cost to the town. So phenomenal job these guys are doing.
No, it's excellent. And it seems to be a very rigorous program. So it's not like everybody who takes the training, passes automatically. So there's probably a little bit of a pride in getting that. I don't know if it's a license or whatever they call it. Like it's like a.
it is. It's actually a pilot's license
Right,
issued by the FAA.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought. It should be something, which is not easy to get, obviously. So that's great. Okay.
So speaking of cost, this little drone that we have in front of us here is hopefully our newest addition. It's right now as a demo for the department. And as Officer Care says, we've responded mutual aid to a lot of different towns. And as a result of our mutual aid calls, we've actually encouraged a lot of departments to go forth with specific drone programs. The vendor that we currently use for our drone program has basically sold, I think he said 5 or 6 drones as a result of our program. He has gotten a grant through DJI to hopefully give away 3 drones, a Mini 3, a Mavic, and this Avata drone. We asked for a demo as a result of some training that we did last month. He sent us this Avata, and if that grant comes through, Rocky Hill Fire Department and Police Department will be receiving this drone free of charge as a result of the mutual aid.
So can we put the screen up? Are you going to try to launch one of those?
Theoretically, you don't even have to put the screen up. He can fly around the screen if we.
We don't need, I mean, you don't need it to continue.
Oh no, shouldn't need it to continue now. So you might want to put it up.
Yeah.
Like I said, it is a new drone.
I'm not sure how the public can see it, so that's why I'm just suggesting it. So the program, am I correct? Did it start, Rich, did you have the first drone back when you were fire marshal? Did you have the first drone, the town,
No, well, that drone was Mark.
Mark's?
Yeah. I
Oh,
brought
it
my
was
own
it
personal-
was your drone?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it started, the genesis of it was in the fire department, right?
Yes.
And it was
Right.
located
So,
there?
Just understand that this might be cutting edge now, but 2-3 years down the road, this is gonna be standard operating procedure, so you might as well get in front of it now.
Yeah, well, I think it's just hearing the presentation and the evolving skill level and experience level, right? Finding out where there's issues and how to get around it. I mean, I think we're probably already ahead of the curve based on other towns not even being started, right? Because you have to figure out how to use it to the best of its ability. So I commend you for that.
There are several drone programs throughout the state. We are probably one of the busiest. Just as an example, we've already flown our drone on missions 3 times this month alone.
Yeah. If anyone you want, this is a virtual goggles. I know it sounds a little crazy, but if you put it on, you'll actually see the perspective of the drone flying, if anyone wants to put them on, or you can just watch.
Come on, guys.
I will.
Get in there, Ed.
Good, you go first.
Good.
Just understand, he's going to fly though.
Yeah, no, I understand. I'm not FAA.
You could have had fun with that, Mark. You could have had fun with that one. Ed, raise your arm.
So the base is like, there's no screen here, so you're not able to see. So the other
So
person's
you
wearing
could-
this gear.
If you're flying the aircraft, you're the one wearing that.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So you can see what I'm seeing, or you could see something, right?
Firmware updating.
Okay, well, that would help. Again, we run into some of these little things when we do it. The firmware is constantly updating, so sometimes it's,
44%.
well, I was
Climbing?
pushing it as we were going, so.
Yeah.
These guys did.
What do you think so far with the goggles on it? I know you can't see the,
Yeah, no, it looks like it's going to be very high definition.
it's where it was
I
going
mean, it's
before.
a
before we
very
put 'em
sharp
on.
image. Yeah, it's a very sharp image, and it gives you depth.
Now, this specific drone is meant to fly indoors. It can fly outdoors as well. Like I said, each of our drones has a specific tasks for it.
Should be good, right?
So if you were to have a barricaded suspect and we had an open access point, we could actually fly this drone right through a window and through the entire facility. As a matter of fact, when we first got the demo unit last week, we were kind of flying around the police department and, knocking on windows and things like that with it. It's a ruggedized drone, so if for some reason the person does decide that, they see the drone and they hit it, yes, it will crash to the ground, but
Oh, wow.
ability, the framing around it allows it to take the hit, crash, and then just be relaunched as soon as it's available.
Ed,
There's a lot of detail in this. It almost magnifies.
There's you.
Yeah, yep. Oh, all right. Hey, if anybody else wants to get a quick try, it's worth taking a quick look. Very impressive. Very impressive.
Obviously, if you have if you had a barricaded suspect, something like that, or someone hiding in a hallway in a room, This thing is so small that we'd be able to fly it through the door, obviously hoping that it was open, essentially rotating the person hiding, behind the desk. Obviously with time and something else.
Wow,
Phil, you have to give it a...
this thing is amazing.
I imagine down the road, you'll be able to have a payload and drop something. You already have that.
Well, my employer already does that
Oh, all right.
in my, day job.
Oh, I left my glasses there.
Thank you. Very impressive.
I'm not sure if you guys remember the incident in Weathersfield that happened about a month or two ago. They were trying to serve a warrant. The SWAT team was out there for a little bit. They actually flew this drone. Manchester had one of these, and they were able to fly this drone into the home and get an idea of what the home looked like before they even sent the operators in to make contact with that person. Again, saving them the unknown of what's behind the next door. They already knew where their guy was.
Yeah, it seems like that'll be a big advantage, whether it's a fire or an accident or a police incident with a bad guy or something. Being able to put eyes in first, so eventually you've got to go in, but if you go in knowing something about the situation, you're probably improving safety for both parties. Yeah.
So I apologize because Mark had asked me for the pictures from fire that we had, in the process of moving. I couldn't find it, but not that particular drone, but another one, we flew into a structure that was collapsing because it was not safe to enter, and he was able to fly the drone and take a series of pictures where we didn't have to enter that structure again, and we determined what started the fire off the pictures that he got from the drone.
Great. Appreciate the presentation. I think we're all set to
Yes.
move on because we
Thank
have
you.
a police
That was great.
presentation on license plate reader technology. It's a tech day, tech evening. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Less than 10 minutes.
Okay. So I know Lieutenant Phelps has got some medical stuff going on, so I'm just going to talk for him. Town of Rock Hill license plate reader, where's the thing? All right, so just a brief history. This was brought to the council back on October 28th, 21, after discussion with the chief and the council. Initial funding was slated through ARPA funds. November 21, there was a request for bid. December 21, there was a bid opening and sent to finance. Again, 12/20 was sent to the town council on a consent agenda and approved Recor as the vendor on a 5-year lease. So February 2022, the contract was finalized by the town attorney, signed by the town manager. March 2022, Eversource polo agreement was signed, and back in May 22, the Frontier polo agreement was signed. In October, Eversource required changes to the poll locations, and the request was resubmitted. December, Recor notified the town they have received approval from Eversource and Frontier to start, and installation begins in January of this year. Now they're in February, and we're waiting a power connection to the camera poles. Let's see. What is LPR? LPR stands for License Plate Reader. It's a simple acronym. It utilizes cameras and software to read license plates. That's all it's doing. It's taking a picture of a license plate, it's seeing the alphanumeric on it, and it's relaying it back to the software, which is going to send the police department an alert if the plate's tagged as being a stolen plate, or if it's associated with someone that's missing, or an amber alert, silver alert. The police department will get a notification like, ding, 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 this car just passed Cromwell Ave in Cold Spring. maybe you should go look for it, which is it's ultimately going to generate a response. Those license plates, again, are compared against the DMV and National Crime Information Center databases for those things. The system will alert for plates associated with missing persons, Amber Alerts, stolen, wanted vehicles, license plates, of wanted person. The owner-operator information is not given. Once we get an alert for those things, the police officers on patrol will get that alert. They'll have to confirm that hit is what it's called. So let's say 123 ABC pops up on the alert system as being a missing person. The police officer will be able to type in that license plate using their data terminal and determine that, yes, 123 ABC is the vehicle associated with this missing person. Let's generate a response, traffic stop, an encounter, just to, obviously locate that person. This is what it looks like. It's up on the poles around town. This is what a hit would look like. So again, this is a Rocky Hill police vehicle. The plate reads 106RH. It tells you where, Cold Spring Road and Highland Street. It's telling you the car is traveling eastbound, and what the camera system's doing is taking a clip, like a snapshot video of the vehicle as it passes that camera. So again, you get a hit, 106RH. It says this vehicle is stolen. We'll get a notification. We'll see a picture of the car. So that way, if there's an officer on Cromwell Ave by Cold Spring, they'll see it. They'll notice that the car is, this is the car that matches that hit. They're going to have to confirm that hit, 106RH, yep, stolen vehicle, and now a response can be generated off of that. Traffic stop,
So
felony
this
stop.
is the way the image is looking, but the technology hones in and gets the license plate.
Correct. The
Reads
technology,
it, and then it gives you the printout, and the picture's like inconsequential.
Correct.
Hey, I know this is the license number
Correct.
from that, boom, it's there, and the picture goes by the wayside.
yep, all it's doing is it's taking the alphanumerics off the plate and comparing it to the alphanumerics that are in the database as being stolen, wanted people, missing people, Amber Alerts. So that way a response can be generated. It still has to be confirmed by the police department before. This alone isn't like our probable cause, if you will, to stop this car. Like, let's say it pops up as a stolen vehicle. That doesn't mean we can just go stop the car. We're going to have to confirm that what we're reading is the license plate that's on this vehicle, and that once we run that license plate, we find that the car is stolen, or we find that the person is missing, or that it's a wanted person that just committed an armed robbery in New Britain. So we have to confirm that information before we just act on it. But this is what you'd see. You'd see the 106RH. You'd have to double check that to make sure it is what it says it is, and then you could take action based off of that confirmation.
So is literally every plate that's read run through that database, or is it just kind of a sample?
Everything.
Everything.
Yeah. Again, it's not a 100% perfect all the time system. Hopefully it reads 106RH and not 106RH. That might be a wanted car in California, but not in Connecticut, because we don't have a license plate that would have 106, unless someone made it that way. But it's not that's why it has to be confirmed. So we look at that, we go, yep, that's a Connecticut license plate, 106RH. Be able to put it into your system, 106RH, and boom, yes, stolen vehicle, or yes, it's a missing person, or yes, it's an Amber Alert, whatever the case is. That's when you can act. So all that has to be verified. Just some state requirements. The data will be retained for 30 days. At that point, it gets purged out of the system. Officers will be able to utilize the search portion of the RECORE system to aid them in criminal investigations. For instance, you have let's say we had a burglary inside, I'm just going to use Cold Spring and Highland because that's the one we just saw. Let's say we had a burglary. We actually have it, I had multiple cases of vehicle windows that were smashed at the Cold Spring apartments off of at Century Hills, or Concierge. We'd be able to see every license plate of every car that went through that camera, whether it was eastbound or westbound, and we could set time frames. So we'd have a pool of vehicles to be able to look for. If someone saw a black Honda Civic, newer model, leaving there around 6:30 at night, we'd be able to narrow our search in to 6:20 and 6:40 and look for any black Honda Civics that left that, or that hit that camera during that time frame. That'll allow us to put that information out to other police departments, and hopefully someone will be able to locate that vehicle if it isn't in Rocky Hill still, in order to aid in those criminal investigations. Again, and any data that's used for those investigative purposes has to follow any record retention period set forth by the state of Connecticut. If an arrest is made, there's retention periods. If there's no arrest made, there's a lesser retention period. That's all it's saying. Some locations of the systems, they're on Old Main near the Weathersfield line. It's pretty much at any entrance or exit to the town currently. So Old Main and Weathersfield line, Route 99 at the Cromwell line, Elm Street, I-91 exit 24. The Charter area, Waters, Raymond Road area, Route 3, Cromwell line, Elm Street, Gilbert, Westerly, Hayes Road and the Weathersfield line, New Britain Ave near Kobe, Cold Spring Road, and West Street near I-91. Again, any area where you can come into or out of the town is generically what we have so far. Any questions on that?
Not for me, thank you.
That's a great presentation. Thank you for bringing us up to date. So, by the way, just for people who are at home, how prevalent is this technology across Connecticut and countrywide?
We really started seeing us. I personally, I've been on for now 8 years. I've started seeing it personally when the pursuit policy started changing. We had to change the way that we were investigating crimes. So if we can't chase after cars, there has to be a different way for us to solve these crimes. And with cameras up on poles, it helps us locate license plates, which in turn helps us have a lead to follow up on. Like I was just explaining, if we had an incident at Century Hills, or if we had an incident, let's say, at a burglary near the Dunkin' Donuts in the Cromwell Plaza on Cromwell Ave, we're able to see a car potentially get on 91 and head north or south. So it's helping us in preventing those police pursuits. It's aiding in investigations. It's the new standard of what we're seeing going in across Connecticut. A lot of these cameras are attached to other towns, so you can kind of cross-reference information with that.
You'll also see these types of cameras on just private companies are putting them at their, the car wash. So as you pull through, it reads your plate, and then you can go through the car wash. Well, that's also an LPR that's being sent out to wherever. So you're seeing it on private side. You see it on repo trucks. You see it on all kinds of different things. So it's everywhere now. And the towns around us are bringing them online, and we're going to be able to share information with them as well.
Yeah, that's great. That's what I was trying to get at. Like, if you're able to use technology in lieu of, like, policing, conventional policing, which you kind of refer to, which certain things you're not able to do. I think this makes things safer on the road, as well as helps you solve, crimes and things such as that, like, incidents, traffic incidents. So I think overall, from a perspective of the listener or the viewer, like at home, I wanted to kind of get into that because I want to make sure that people at home understand that this is something which is not new in terms of what we are trying to do here. It's been a pretty widely accepted technology at this point, and the safeguards for privacy of individuals are in place so that there is no abuse of the technology. I just want to make sure that people at home understand that.
These are also the misconception is that these are cameras. Yes, they are, but they're also directed to just try to read the license plate or get the car going by. They're not. We had a request today to see if we had a shot going down the street. They don't do that. They're just pretty much aimed to try to get the plate. So, you're out there mowing a lawn and you drive through the area at the same time. Yeah, you might be mowing your lawn, but it's not
Capturing the person.
designed to be
Yeah.
watching people
Correct.
doing their normal thing.
Correct. And we do have safeguards in terms of how long we retain the data. We have safeguards in terms of who has access to that data, how we safeguard that data in the cloud. The company which is the owner of the equipment and supporting the service on these cameras has safeguards in place as well. So there is a data privacy component to this, which is in place.
Which is what you guys requested the town's attorney to review.
Right.
And so whatever they decided, they went back and forth.
Exactly. So this has been reviewed by the town attorney,
Right.
and
Above my head. I-
yes, yes, yes.
You guys handled that end of it.
Yeah, of course, of course. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Is Charlie Brown available? We can give you 4 minutes, Charlie.
Or we can, do you want to put this on the agenda next time, maybe?
Yeah.
So that he gets
Yeah,
enough time.
Charlie, we're going to have to move you to the next public safety meeting. Is that okay? Do you have a quick message?
He's been having technical issues all night.
And having technical difficulties, so I think maybe we better adjourn. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Night.